That intro was a wee bit dramatic, but I mean, let's talk about some black clothes, shall we? The power of black in general as a color, accumulating it, whatever. I got my lovely laptop below me. Oh, that's a lovely cauldron cup full of delicious black coffee with cinnamon and nutmeg thrown in, which are very orange brassy colors, but we can't keep everything in theme. That would just be a black screen, and that's not fun to look at. I was interested in this a little bit because of how, in my mind, powerful the color black is. And when I think of like one resolving term that surrounds the idea of wearing black, black is power. That is why we wear it. There's a couple things that go along with it, but looking into some of the historical context of why people wear black, who wears black, is very, very interesting. And there's a whole bunch of contradictions when it comes to the associations of the color within our society in general, and then other things. So join me as we look into this. The first thing, of course, is I like to poke into, I guess, quote unquote, the science of certain things a little bit here. And the whole idea of like black is not actually a color. Like black is the absorption of all the colors on a visible spectrum. So it's just that none of those colors are reflecting back to us that we can see. So that's why we see black. It's very interesting when you think of the power of magic and why people would want to adorn themselves with black, because that means that it is kind of turning you, as you drape yourself with it, put it on your lips, etc. and so forth, into a receptor for a huge amount of energy that like really pulls in a whole bunch of oomph and power, which would make a lot of sense for witches in general to use that, or any sort of magic practitioner would want to draw in power, want to come into this like battery, I guess, type of association when it comes to color black. But beyond that, when I looked into the actual what someone else said about the associations of black: grounding, wisdom, learning, protection, safety, reversing, uncrossing, unhexing, repelling black magic, interesting, banishing negativity, releasing, shape-shifting, defense, scrying, and pride. Now, all very interesting associations, but if one is absorbing a shit ton of energy via the way that black works as a color, as opposed to white, which reflects everything, which is why we don't see in a mass of it, why is it so based in protection then? Why is black such a element of power, of protection, a defense against these things if it's absorbing everything? And it really lends to the idea of like us choosing what we wish to absorb. I am bringing in all this energy as much as I want, but whatever I don't want, boom, it's like it hits a barrier, like it is absorbed into the depth, and then only what I want actually gets cast into me, which is kind of interesting, right? And one blog that I found is that black sends out very mixed messages, even though the meaning of the color varies among cultures and people. Black has a wide range of symbolisms and meaning than any other color. Black can send totally opposite messages depending on who you ask. For example, black is sometimes regarded as dark, or even sometimes people who are black are considered invisible. Interesting. Like, you could be someone who's like powerful and totally taken notice of, or someone who just like disappears in the background. But also a sign of power. And while black can stand for minimalism or even poverty, it can also be a sign of luxury. And these such stark contrasts, I think in a lot of ways envelops the whole idea that black also means chaos. Or as I've described it before with the darkness video, black is a symbol of the unknown. It is what we can't see. And when that unknown becomes all of those possibilities, the idea of power or luxury, the idea of knowledge or the unknown entirely. And it is that embodiment, I think, of that darkness, that unseeable, that reflects a lot of the contradictions of black. One of the lovely websites I was popping into was the Austation.com. I will put the links down below, the things I mentioned here. But this is really great, talking about the power of black as history of clothes in general, not necessarily to do with the occult. How black is used in Christianity. Very interesting. So the color black has been symbolically in religion for centuries. Historically, the religion has been the authority that created social rules, ethics, morals, and guidelines. Because of that, the religion continues to influence the way we regard black today. In the Bible, the book of Genesis claims that darkness was present before light, and therefore believers sometimes say that black is the first of all colors, primordial, the beginning. Black has been perceived to have a negative connotation since light as we know it can't exist in darkness. Black has been regarded as evil, a symbol of darkness, whereas life represents light, the pleasant, and the good. During the Middle Ages, priests wore black as a sign of humility and penance. To be a priest meant to reject all worldly pleasures and live in accordance with the laws of religion. Black also used in Christianity church days and many of the liturgical styles and ecclesiastical textiles. Black symbolizes sorrow or grief and is commonly used during Easter as a reminder of Jesus on the cross. Contradiction number one, which unfortunately influences a lot of our society. The people that we revere to be these people who are very, you know, higher than the common people. You know, we think of the Pope, a lot of white, cardinals, red, but priests and nuns are adorned in black. And this idea that black represents a cast off of worldly possessions, a kind of like devotion, is very, very intriguing, right? The idea that black shows your devotion to a thing. And still, in a lot of ways, I would say, I'm sorry, a priest and a nun, those people have power. They are the powerful people. And so the idea that black is a way to, one, show that they've cast away all their worldly things, but still hold this semblance within our society that is higher, is very intriguing when you think about all of that. So basically, in the last several centuries, black has been viewed to lead to superstition about animals. Black animals like ravens, cats are regarded as evil and thought to have supernatural powers. Although I've seen that has been very contradictory all the time. Like there's some places where black cats are considered lucky, as opposed to a black cat cross your path like bad. And like even today, I think that's still an issue where people adopt a black cat because it makes you feel creepy or something, which is silly. We love the black cats. Ain't that right, boo-boo? And when it comes to like black and storytelling that's used, like black nights, black has always been kind of, again, the mysterious, the unknown. It makes us think of mystery and this concept of something that is there. Like we see that just the surface value of it, because you can't get into the depth. Even though so many times I think black does represent depth, it represents a abyss of sorts that could be dived into. But because of that abyss, and it's so like terrifying within the unknown, we don't want to. It's like the fear seems to kick in, and so we only see it for the very shallow first impression that we notice about the black. So black is also a sign of mourning. Its connection with death is definitely a huge thing, especially within Western culture. Today black is acceptable attire for funerals and a symbol of grief. You know, there's the whole thing back in the day where it's like a wife had to wear a black clothes, but only like for a certain amount of time to show she was properly grieving for her husband. If she was wearing even a speck of color or any sort of white a little too soon, everyone's like, oh, unhappy marriage, disrespectful. Which I find extremely entertaining. So the idea of like a woman walking around in all black and somber, but also like the idea of like a respected widow. Like, damn, that bitch has been through some things. Don't fuck with her. Again, a pseudo odd symbol of power, even though in some ways a lot of what she was to wear was being dictated to her, right? For centuries, people have saved their best and most valuable clothing for going to church and funerals. Those special occasions, dresses they wore were usually black, especially in the countryside and amongst common people. Because of this, prior to World War I, it was common for wedding dresses to be black. Very intriguing. That also be one explanation as to why black attire is the appropriate color at parties and festivities. But black hasn't always been a color of grief. The French kings once used red as a sign of mourning, and that later changed to purple. White was even used for mourning in the past. And it was Anna, it's French, I'm not going to say it right, Britannia? It's the French swallow vowels. Someone's French, tell me how to say it phonetically. A French duchess who introduced black as the color of mourning in the late 1400s. So that's also very intriguing, the idea of like, I don't know, nowadays if you were to wear a black wedding dress, you are seen as gothic, you know, it's a very alternative thing to do. But apparently like the idea of black being this thing that you would wear to church, to mourning, it is a symbol of luxury in that sense, right? So anytime we are wearing black, we are wearing our finest attire. Again, a symbol of power too. If it is the finest, it is the thing that we only wear on the special occasion. That holds a symbol of power to it. And now this is probably the most interesting one, I think, that really got me going, is does black symbolize power or invisibility? Almost universally, blue symbolizes control and claim, red symbolizes passion and power, but black's meaning varies depending on the situation. The color black can speak volumes about a person and how they perceive themselves. It can also say very little about the person. It is contradictory that being dressed in black is a symbol of power, and that being dressed in black is also a way to blend in. Men and women in positions of power often wear black. One reason is that it is used to be difficult to dye silk and other fabrics black and have the color be even. As the dyeing process became easier, black clothing was still expensive to make, so only people with power and money were able to afford black clothes. It was a long time before common people could even afford black clothing. During the 1700s, black became a fashionable color and started to be worn for celebrations or festivals. Even today, there are many women who haven't worn a little black dress to a party or event. The same goes for men who wear black suits or tuxedos on special occasions. King Edward VII of Great Britain started the tradition of wearing a white suit with a black jacket and trousers to special events and celebrations. So again, the idea of, like, if we think about it, yeah, our most formal clothes, the clothes we wear to business, to work, you know, what is considered business attire, and the safest bet is always wear black. Also, judges wear black. This constant idea of, like, what is formal, what is powerful, what is the proper thing to wear, seems to be a lot of black. While black can also be a symbol of power, it can also be worn to blend in with others without avoiding standing out in a crowd. If you look at a group of men in black suits, each individual becomes less visible. Next time you visit a domestic airport early in the morning, look around you and you'll see more business people are dressed in black. They are everywhere and they all look the same. The people who stand out from the crowd are those dressed in bright colors, who have a brightly colored accessory. Those individuals will catch your attention. If you want to reduce the impact of wearing black, you can add a contrasting color to your outfit. Black complements and emphasizes all colors in a fantastic way, depending on the situation. And George O'Keeffe says, a nice lovely quote from them placed in this article, is that there's something about black, you feel hidden away in it. And I think in a lot of ways this pertains to the idea of protection and safety. That concept of blending in, of going under the radar, makes a lot of sense. But when I think of a business suit, when I think of the judge's uniform, there are a lot of ways where it is black. It is very, very rarely that it is 100% all black, if you notice. A businessman wears a white collared shirt and a black suit. Same thing for businesswomen. There's many times where if you are in all black, like myself, suddenly that's get noticed. It's almost as if these certain combinations of black with white seem to be the blending in thing. It's almost like a balancing out thing. If it's balanced, then you go unnoticed. But if you're entirely on the black, then well, that definitely seems to stand out a bit, doesn't it? And it also talks about black being sexy. And the whole concept of, you know, that the little black dress that we wear to parties is, of course, a little bit of luxurious, but also, like, it's a thing of sex. I'm going back to the whole religious connotations of things being dark, sinful, nonsense. But that concept then also pulls into all the ideas of anything that's sin lustful. You know, the idea of black lingerie, of being dressed in tight black clothes, does lead to a semblance of sexiness. In encyclopedia.com, I found a lovely thing all about occult fashion and the idea of contemporary stereotypes and why in a lot of ways the witch or the occultist was suddenly associated with black. And a lot of it apparently just comes down to, while there are also these concepts of power and luxury in wearing black, very clearly a lot of it just comes from the media that was put out there by the church, and then by other forms of media as things went on. There is a constant mention of the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz that seemed to pop up a lot, and I think possibly it was just because of one of the first colored movies being The Wizard of Oz. The idea of this witch being bright, glowing, and covered in warts, but then also just dressed in black, is a very stark contrast to the rest of that movie being so brightly colored. You know, very clearly, here is the other. And it's funny too, because when you think of even her skin color in some respects is interesting to me because of how crazy the rest of that world is. I mean, the woman's walking around with some tin man and a talking lion and a scarecrow. They ain't exactly like looking normal. The green skin thing wasn't all that weird, but the fact that she was in all black seems to be a very signifying of ooh, dark dastardly, you know, along with other witchy, right? There's a lot of just I guess, stereotypical things like, oh, if you wear all black, the Satanist, the gothic kid, the one that's trying to stand out. It'd be weird. Like I said, all black seems to be the thing that triggers people to go, oh, that's a bit different. Even though in businesses or in other attire, wearing black in those settings seems to represent something entirely else. But when you think of like that alternative kid, that kid that's trying to stand out, that kid that's trying to be a little more rebellious teenager phase, a lot of times there's a lot of association with black. And then when you think of like the outcasts of society, also there's a huge association with black. And yet black is also one of the main colors that like our business people wear all the time to fit in and become invisible. And I think that contradiction is extremely interesting with the color. Because again, it all comes back to that unknowable chaos. That unknowable equals also opportunity for all of the options. And I think that's one of the reasons why wearing black is so powerful for magical practitioners, because it does embody all of those possibilities. It is a way to stand out. It is a way to blend in. It is a way to be powerful. It is a way to show more impoverished and a casting away of the worldly things. It is a way to become that powerful and luxury and show that you are stepping out and putting forth effort. In the same way, it can be a uniform that is almost mindless to be put on. The color black has so many associations, and in doing it and wearing it, it is a very purposeful, I think, of then what association you want to take on and what association you are bringing into it. For me, it is all about that powerful aspect. It is all about that unknowable, that potential that's hidden within it. It's also a little bit about the standing out. While I also love to gravitate toward it just naturally, like, and when I look at my closet, when I realize if I'm not trying to please others, naturally there are just a shit ton of more black things in there. I really, really enjoy it. But there is a certain level of pleasure that I get when I walk around dressed head to toe in black, where there's a level of quote-unquote badassery that comes along with it for some reason. And again, that power, that object of, when we think of the person who is that standout, that like seems that like they can handle their shit, person's a lot of times wearing black, aren't they? Anyway, this is part of Youtober. I make new videos every single day on this channel. Comment down below some of the things that this has brought up for you. What do you associate with the color black? Do you see these contradictions in society as a whole? Do you wear a lot of black? Or are you someone that is like, no, you know what, black's just not my style. I don't like to adorn my body in that color, not at all. I know there's a lot of things I didn't really touch on here with like the metal bands and gothic culture in general. It's not really something I tapped into, like that's a whole nother topic video I could do. But anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.